Does that take a little getting used to?
What's that?
Does that take a little getting used to?
A little bit, but it's not too bad. Just it's going to open somewhere. Well, welcome to live session. It is Wednesday, April 1st, and this is not a fool's joke. We are in live session. This is National University Management 603 Business Operations Management, and I am Dr. Sands. I will be your cruise director for the next 4 weeks here. So, welcome. All right. Well, just a brief agenda. Say hello, introductions, go through the course, then we'll review assignments 1 and 2. And of course, David, any questions that you may have along the way, or any questions maybe that you brought into tonight, we will go ahead and address those, as well. Um, when I get started, I said Dr. Richard Sands. I've been teaching with National for about 6 years now. I've been teaching at the university level since 2007. I also just retired from my career in healthcare that I was in, gosh, for about 25 years. So now I'm just teaching full time. And during my time in healthcare, I've had director positions at large insurance companies, United Health Group, Providence, Kaiser, um, Blue Shield, and the like. It was an enjoyable career. I got my bachelor's and MBA from Pepperdine, my PhD from Walden University, and a master's in Six Sigma from Villanova, which I'm also a certified Six Sigma black belt. So that's served my career. I live in Southern California. How about yourself, David?
That's awesome. I'm a veteran. I work for
Oh,
the VA.
okay.
I'm a healthcare administrator. I'm in the transportation department. I'm in charge of transportation for GLA. So it's from San Luis Obispo to Ventura County to Bakersfield to like North Hills, West LA, downtown and stuff. So any transportation of that for veteran care, I'm in charge of.
Very good.
Um, I what do you call it? I got my bachelor's through University of Phoenix, and then oh, I'm a class away from finishing up my MHA there, and then here finishing up MBA from here. So I'll have both masters, MBA and MHA soon.
Very good. That's exciting. Congratulations on that, and thank you for your service for sure.
Thank you.
Right.
And I live in Palmdale in Southern California also. So
Palmdale. Okay. Yeah, I live in Chino Hills, kind of in North Orange County area.
oh yeah, no, I know exactly where that's at.
Okay, great. Awesome. All right. Well, well,
A lot of cow maneuver smell out there, right?
yeah, although it's when I moved to Chino Hills in 2000, and the smell was much more predominant back then.
Yeah,
Not as much cow farmland like there used to be. It's all being developed, so
yeah.
don't get that smell like we used to.
Oh, you just got used to
Yeah, and you get
it.
used to. Very good. All right. Well, so if you've taken a course here, the layouts are, pretty much identical. Let's start off with taking a look at our discussions section. Um, Best way to get in touch with me is just shoot me an email if you got a question or need to reach out to me. Just email me. I get it pretty much right away. Over the weekends, if you're stuck on something and again you need help, you can text me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I like to not be tied down on the weekends, but definitely we'll get back to you. I always tell my students. If assignments due Sunday night and you text me, Sunday evening saying I just got started and I don't understand anything, I am not going to respond. So, but if you're into an assignment and stuff and you're stuck, then definitely reach out. Other things I always like to say is that I my schooling over the years has all been done primarily all in the evenings, working full time, family. So, I like to say that because I know what it's like being on the other side of the camera, so to speak. So if a life situation comes up that may impact, turn an assignment in timely, then definitely reach out, and then we can, take it case by case. The discussions, those are kind of confined within the week. If you miss it, you just miss it. There's really nothing I can do about that. You kind of liken it to like if you had to go to a class in person, if you miss the class, you miss it. And that's kind of the same thing for the discussions. Um, if you got a general question, you can always post it here. I usually tell students, if it's a personal kind of related something, you know, don't put it there because all the students can see it and, you may not want that. But like I said, you can always email me with any sort of questions. So that's why I usually like to nudge students that direction. Um, all right. So for the discussions, again, this should be pretty similar from class to class. Again, late submissions outside the week, not really anything I can do about that. For this class, your initial post is due by Wednesday, 11:59, and then you have your peer interactions from Thursday through Sunday. Let's see here. All right, down. And this just talks about the peer interactions. I do read everything, so peer interactions that say, "Hey, good job." Those don't count. There needs to be some substance within those, as well. All right, let's see here. Scroll on down. I've been reading through and responding to the introductions. I always enjoy reading about folks with their posts, so that's always fun. And then as we get down to our first discussion, which folks are posting, instructions, your initial post should be roughly 600 words in length, and your responses to peers should be roughly 150 words. Site references. Play the video operation, process inputs, transformation outputs, and answer the following questions. So go ahead and answer those questions as you walk through your initial post. And then again, when those should be done by, let's see, and I do need to edit. So I realize, let me edit this one real quick. For some reason, the two was left off. I'm not sure how. Okay, we'll just save that and close. Okay. All right. So that's yeah, basically, like again, the discussions are pretty similar from class to class, taught, gosh, maybe 10 different courses here, all within management and operations and the like. And they've all been similar to that. So, okay. You go ahead. And then, David, I'll kind of cruise through, the different topics and things. And, I'll pause if you have any questions, I take silence as, good to continue. If you have a question, just jump in there with it and ask.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right, let's look at the assignments. So for this class, you do have two assignments each week. And in a minute, we'll walk through each one of these. I like to I use the live sessions to primarily walk through the assignments and discussions. That way, gives the students the opportunity to ask questions about it to ensure we're all on the same page. I don't go through the readings and things during the live session. For one, it's just an hour, and for two, I always look at the reading, how much, is prescribed reading and how much you choose to read. I leave it all up to you guys to read strategically because I think most times, you'll see the reading, and that's a lot. And probably would never finish 100% of the reading in a week and assignments and everything. So I always say read strategically, take a look at your assignments, then check out the reading and, read what you need to read. And again, if you're taking a class here, it's fast paced, before you know, we're going to be in week 4 saying, okay, we're in week 4. So let's take a look at this. Let me go to the course home. I do, I do post every Monday in the announcement section, and I'll get to that in a second. But let's just scroll down. Just a little bit about my background, kind of hit that in a nutshell, but just a little more detail of my background. And then, what the course is about, at a high level, what we'll be diving into throughout the 4 weeks. Let's see here. And every Monday I do post a welcome to week, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't create new information in this post. What I like to do is to take, what the whole week looks like and kind of synthesize it down into this weekly message. That way, you can look at it like a snapshot of what's ahead of you and then kind of strategically plan how you're going to tackle the week for the reading and assignments and that kind of thing. Introductions, we're doing that already. The courses, here, of course, they are asynchronous, and that means it's up to the student to, plan ahead, schedule, get the work done. But it doesn't mean, you're alone. Like I said, I'm here to support, answer questions, help guide, whatever that need, may be. Technically, there's no late work accepted per National University policy. Like I said, if you have a life situation and something comes up, then definitely reach out to me, right away so we can see what that looks like. APA formatting is, crucial and required on just about everything. And I'm a little bit of a stickler for APA, especially, in the business world because, I've been in the business world a long time and being able to clearly articulate a report or even emails, messages, and the like, as you manage up and then communicate, out, being able to write efficiently, get to the point and clearly articulate, it's important. Business writing is third person, you're looking at the thing, the object, the subject, and then APA is predominantly, well, APA is third person, of course, unless it was a reflection paper. Within APA, you do develop good writing practices, structure, and format. So I really think it is good um, practice even to do APA properly. Okay. Live sessions basically and they're on Wednesdays for the 4 weeks from 5 to 6. I know 5 o'clock can be maybe a little early for us on the West Coast, but then we have East Coast students and it gets late. So I found 5 o'clock kind of that good middle ground there. And then, then of course, our live sessions. I usually post the live session information around 2 or 3 on Wednesdays. Um, every once in a while, something comes up. I think in the 6 years I've been here, I've had to reschedule maybe 2 or 3 live sessions due to work. My dog died one time and some other, things. But that's why I don't post it until about 2 or 3. If for some reason something came up, I would definitely post an announcement saying we're moving it to the next day. All right. Then of course syllabus. No, the syllabus and my announcement posts are pretty similar. And wow, this some systems issue here. I think the formatting kind of came out funky. But our program learning objectives, textbook, and then this also is, I think, as we go through the content section, it's in there as well, just really on what business management is about. This course presents a customer-oriented view of operations within an organization. In my career, I've actually launched two complete operations units. I managed 140 or so people before. I think it's most of them are managed directly. And like I said, and then a lot of the work, a lot of the Six Sigma work that I've done, it's has been in operations to, optimize and streamline and things like that. And in about every business out there, the customer's king, and you want to always enhance that customer experience. Got to make money, of course, but got to enhance customer experience. So, guided by organization strategic plan, operations, deliver the products and service to customers. And it really is because if you think about a business, they do have mission, vision, goals, objectives, strategic plans, how we're going to accomplish X and Y and all that. Um, and then, policies, procedures, all that paperwork stuff, which is needed. But then, you got to put it into practice as, it's where the rubber hits the road. It's great to have all these cool PowerPoints and charts and graphs and numbers, but you got to be able to operationalize it. You got to put it into practice. You got to make it happen. So that's really where, when you think about operations management is just that. And one of the things about working in operations, around operations, your desk is never clean. Desk is never clean because there's always something going on. Something's always broken. Somebody's always pissed off. So it really is working through it. Uh, this course explores uh, um, this course explores how this delivery is accomplished with efficiency and effectiveness. And that is really key in operations is to be efficient and effective. Because if not, then you're a financial drain on the organization. Components of the course include issues of quality, physical design, and systems management. I've actually leaned out operations before, where I would, in the work I've done, go into an existing operation and physically change the design, thinking about, where the copiers are placed, how the desks are facing, all that kind of thing. Just that in itself to increase operational flow. All right. And then your assignments, and really it's, two assignments a week and your discussion. So it's pretty pretty much a carbon copy week after week. Late policy we tackle, no extra credit. Grading scale, it's the basic university scale. I talked about asynchronous. We already covered APA. And here this talks about our discussions. So like I said, the syllabus and then what I post in the announcements pretty duplicative. And I do that on purpose. I'll times where I can, given how much flexibility the our course portal gives to have kind of the same thing in different places for folks to make it easy on them. And of course, then our content, and again, where navigating through, another way to get to the introductions, your resources, just writing center. And again, this all is from same class to class. Then we get into our course modules. And this is where I'll draw, that welcome to week one, for example, it's basically a snapshot of all this in here so you can get an idea of what you're up against. All right. I'm gonna go to the assignment. All right. So, let's see. Let me look at something. Okay. Okay. So for assignment one, describe the concept and theories involved in operations management. You've been employed as an operations manager for a little under a year now. Means you're very green. Your leadership is making their rounds from department to department in hopes of better understanding their associated roles and responsibilities. Your supervisor has tasked you with developing a background paper on operations management and how it is posturing the company for competitive advantage. So once again, your supervisor is tasked to develop a background paper on operations management. Basically, you know, what does your operations look like, right? And how it is posturing the company for competitive advantage. So basically you're creating an as is type of scenario, right? So how are we functioning today? How many people do we have? What are metrics and things like that? And that's very common if leadership is looking to make a change, wanting to optimize, how do we stack up against competition, what software we use and all those type of things. So basically it's a snapshot of that, right? So that's the background. So instructions, um, please answer the following questions and submit them for grading. What is operations management and how has it evolved since World War II in the United States? How have the technology and global economy impacted operations? Um, yeah, man, can you imagine the global economy back in World War II time? How does operations management help firms compete? So, that is where, gosh, we think about AI integration now with chatbots and telephone systems that can answer a lot, with AI and stuff like that. Um, why are business units bundling manufacturing with service in their market offerings? So when we think about operations like um, service, and that's where I've worked in my career and operate, and the work I've done in operations has been on the service side. So, if you had, for example, United Healthcare, or if you've had Kaiser, or, if you've had Providence Health and Services, if you picked up a phone to call about your bill or things like that, that's the operation on the backside where I've worked. Then manufacturing, of course, it's making widgets, right? I mean, it's making stuff. And so that's a type of operation where you make things, you make a physical product, a car, or a skateboard, or whatever. And then the service is, hi, how may we help you? So the two distinctively different types of operations. Describe value added chain management. So value added chain management. Why is it essential to an organization? How does it impact the enterprise competitive edge? So that's worded a little awkwardly, and I'd change it if I could, but um, when you look at a value chain, right? They have put the added in there. I usually just say this value chain management, but um, in the work that you do in the if you're making something, or again, or a manufacturer, you're making something, or in service, you're servicing people. When you look at how it works, what's the value add? What where do we get the main benefits within that value chain? Of course, you can always just Google that and get a more robust definition, but that's the kind of the 100,000 level of it. This assignment must be 750 words, excluding reference page and title page, of course. Note, incorporate APA standardization. So basically, you're submitting an APA research paper, is what your APA formatted research paper that has to be 750 words long with two scholarly references. Now, one point on the references, because it does specifically say scholarly, you can have more than two total references. However, two of those have to be scholarly, and I do accept the books we have in class as scholarly. But other than that, you're talking about um, journal articles, like maybe something from Harvard Business Review, and then in the library, in our school library, there's scholarly articles that scholarly means it's been peer reviewed. You can Google anything on the internet and people are happy to give you their opinion on the internet, right? Write stuff and post everywhere. That doesn't mean it means anything. Anybody can have an opinion, but okay, so what? That's why the scholarly comes into place. All right. Any questions about assignment one?
No, it sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, with what I've noticed and appreciate, at least, I since I teach in the business area, everything's pretty straightforward. It's not like it's trying to fool you or like confuse you or pull the wool over your eyes. You know what I mean? It's boom, boom. So I can definitely appreciate that. Okay, well, let's check out assignment two.
I heard I was listening to I have about an hour commute and I was listening to NPR and the Fed actually said that that for the first time there was a well not the first time but AI contributed to a net zero job creation in the US.
Wow.
So yeah, so it was kind of surprising about that when you talked about AI and stuff like that. Yeah, net zero job creation. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, man, it is. And over time there have, just as, we progress in doing things more efficiently and better. And I mean, from Henry Ford's, Model A, which wasn't that long ago, to, the car to Tesla, right? I mean, what a huge change. And so, jobs do get, eliminated, from like, for example, when I worked at Kaiser Permanente, one of the things that I was involved with is when back in the day, when you went to a hospital or doctor, you had everything in paper, in charts, physical charts, paper that were in a chart room. And hey, Anthony, welcome. And one of the things I was involved with there is having all the physical records scanned and put into Epic, which is the core system. And so everything was electronically, from paper to electronic. And so, at that time, the staff that worked in the chart rooms, their jobs were eliminated, because of technology. The thing though, with AI, it's like a snowball, I mean, ChatGPT came out about what, 2020. I mean, kind of started to get pop, try to kind of started to hit the mainstream about what, 2022-ish, 2021, somewhere in there. A chat, version two, then three. Um, but yeah, it is going to snowball and it is going to eliminate a lot of jobs ultimately. So, as we move forward, it's, we have to embrace AI because it is here, ain't going nowhere, and it's only going to get more robust. So, um, yeah, yeah, I hear you. Sorry, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. Assignment two, compose an operations management research proposal. Background. Your leadership, excuse me, your leadership appeared impressed with the role of an operations manager. So it's saying that's like a generic term. They're impressed of the role of an operations manager. So they like the role. They have always suspected of knowing what an operations manager is responsible for. However, your background paper provided the insight they needed to make the decision. So, that's referring to assignment one. There was a purpose to each department. Excuse me. There was a purpose to each department's visit. Okay. So, management, leadership went and visited the operations units plus, the background assessment that you provided. Paper provided the insight they needed to make a decision. There was a purpose to each departmental visit, and that was to identify which department was most deserving of innovative funds. So leadership's got this money. They like the idea of an operations manager, but they can only sounds like they're only going to afford to like hire one. Okay, so they checked out all the operations and say, okay, well, we have these operations. Which one would be the best fit to really, put this operations manager role there? You later realize the funds are also used to pay for the extra time dedicated to research and any solution that makes sense, i.e., results in significant ROI, improve efficiency, improve quality, etc. So that's your background there. Instructions. The key to this assignment is to ensure that the problem being addressed is an operational issue and not a strategic or so large in scale that it would take years to address. So, what do we mean by that? Um, of course, in operations, there's always a strategic plan. There's your, um, uh, 1 year plan and then your long-term 5-year plan. So you always got to be thinking ahead and planning. Okay. That's in any business unit, of course. Um, so what this says here says the key to this assignment is to ensure that the problem being addressed is an operational issue, not a strategic. So long-term planning is strategic. We're going to strategize. This is saying being addressed as an operational issue, i.e., it's happening right now. We have a problem, Houston, and we need to fix it. Okay. So it's something that we can get done maybe 30, 60, 90 days, right? Kind of quick. That's the differentiator there they're talking about. Operations management deals with the day-to-day processing of running efficiently. So focus on something that can have measurable results in the short-term basis. Now, technically, short term could be anywhere within a year. When you hit the year mark, then that is the usual typical benchmark. It's long term. Using your organization, critically think about an operations management problem that could improve. Okay. This is a rough draft. The takeaway is to formulate a problem statement that you can use to write your paper, which is essentially a research question. You're composing a research question that drives an explanation for the necessary change that delivers improvement. Got a problem, we're going to pose it as a question that if we solve this question can improve performance. The questions should start with what can be done. Avoid using questions that begin with how will it or how will or will. These types of questions merely provide part of the explanation for a solution or a yes or no answer. A proper solution digs deep into the root cause, and that is paramount, is understanding like the work that I did in healthcare. You always had to get to the root cause so you can solve it. Now, a lot of times, a symptom of a root cause can look like a root cause. So that's why you got to be clear about here's a symptom. We want to get to the root cause because there could be a lot of symptoms. This root cause is creating all these symptoms and problems. Kind of a rule of thumb. If you got a problem, if you ask why you have that problem, working backwards, like ask that why question like 5 times, plus or minus, you can get to the root cause of your problem. Got to work it backwards. A proper solution digs deep into the root cause and is justified with evidence-based, actionable plans to incorporate change. So evidence-based, it's um, numbers driven. It is a clearly articulated, rationale, I mean, very succinct. This is why it's happening. If you can put numbers in there, it definitely helps. That's where a proper solution digs into the root cause and is justified with evidence-based, actionable plans to incorporate change. So, you know, everybody can have a great idea, and that's awesome. But if you can't operationalize, you can't tangibly do this great idea, then it's a waste of time. So if you got a great idea, awesome, but can it be done? Okay, that's where it's actionable plan. We can take action and fix this thing to incorporate change. Note, the instructor expects a rough draft, not a finished product. So that's a note to me, I guess. Okay. List some issues and metrics that pertain to potential problems in your organization. Explain your organization's transformation process by providing inputs, transformation, and outputs, as in Figure 1. Almost looks like a SIPOC type of uh, diagram. This really is a SIPOC diagram. So a SIPOC is systems, inputs, outputs, POC, outputs, consumer, or control. This is pretty close to a SIPOC. Anyway, so I'm sorry. So what's your environment? What are your customers, regulations, suppliers, economy, competition, technology? That's like the environment you operate in. So starting there, then what are the inputs? Capital, where do you get money? Materials, equipment, facilities, labor, supplies, knowledge, time. Those are your inputs. Like in the operations unit, a lot of times, um, you have, full-time employees, that's your core. And then depending on what's going on operation, like seasonally, in healthcare, a lot of times the beginning of the year is a high demand on call centers because a lot of benefits reset, new people getting new plans, their prescriptions reset. There's flexible spending cards. You got money to spend on that all at once, So first quarter in healthcare operations is a very busy time. So, if you have problems, responding to phone calls on time, you're not processing claims fast enough or whatever, then during those busy times, you can backfill or not backfill, but you can bring on some temps to help with that volume. Transformation systems, alternation, transportation, storage, inspection, outputs, facilitating goods and service, and then monitoring and control. So these are just some examples. That's not a completely hard set. Like inputs can be a laundry list, right? Transformation systems can be large. Your outputs can be a large list. And then the environment, depending on where the business operates. But this is a good model diagram to get you down the road. Um, Note any concerns in the transformation process and devise a few 3 to 5 topical questions to get you thinking about your term paper. Try to note metrics that can be used and measured between the as is, so where we're at today. Remember, you're doing that analysis on operations, and that's always the case. It's like, what are we at today? And then what do we want to do? So, like my work in healthcare was assessing where it was, and then there was always an organizational objective that we need to get over here. So the work I did was to get us there. These metrics are how you will determine success. And that's important because, again, you can have a great idea, a great plan. Okay, awesome. Well, can we actually operationalize it? Yeah, I think we can operationalize it. You got to always determine how you're going to measure success. And you would never, ever, ever, ever take a proposal to leadership without saying, and at the end of the day, this is how we're going, and I wouldn't say it that way, of course, but how we're going to measure success is by these key metrics. If we hit these key metrics, that'll determine if we've been successful in this change management process. Note that the metrics can pertain to financial and non-financial measures. So financial, increase return on investment, decrease operational spend, non-financial measures. When you think about what's your throughput on widgets, how many skateboard wheels are we making? If we do this, we're going to make more. What's our defect rates? Well, part of our defects is 10%. We can lower that. So those are just off the top of my head. Submit your 3 to 5 slide presentation rough draft by the end of module 1. Okay, you're expected to provide the following information. Describe the organization, introduce the as-is operation condition, construct 3 to 5 problem statements, draft a research question, provide any notable metrics that you can use to measure performance. And measuring performance, so you remember your metrics have to be both your current state and then your future state, right? Because we got to be able to measure it now and then later so we can determine did it go where we wanted it to. So your metrics have to be measurable in the as is and then, when you land down the road. Okay, a reference list note, consider concepts and theories discussed in the text, grade literature, company metrics, and any other peer-reviewed sources. Your length, 5 to 7 slides, presentation, not including the title reference page. So, whenever there is a length, it's always the core of your assignment, right? It's always excluding your title page, it's always excluding references and if you have appendices and all that. So it's always the core, the body. References, 3 to 5 citations with at least 2 from the university library. So that's important. So make sure that, 3 to 5 references, citations with at least 2 from the university library, which was a little different because assignment 1, it just said 2 scholarly sources, right? So this one's saying, hey, 3 to 5 in total, 2 we can trace back to the university library. And that'll be due by Sunday. So, this is a really fun assignments 1 and 2. Any questions about assignment 2?
Assignment two's on our, like, my organization, correct?
That's a really great question, David. Thank you. And it didn't state in here what the specific organization needed to be. So, I think most students write about, where they work. However, if that doesn't fit, then, do a little research on one, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but it didn't. So that's a great question because it really doesn't state to one way or the other. So for me, if it's not specific in, what the university creates and puts out here for us, and it's like, okay, well, it doesn't state, so I'm good with it being your organization or one you just know about or do some research on.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Hi, Professor. I just got on. My
Right.
apologies.
No problem, Jamie. Actually, we've been at it since right at 5, and what ultimately and Anthony as well. But what we've covered is through the agenda, and of course, for the live sessions, I will post them for in the Thursday morning ish, mid afternoon, and they'll be available to watch. 'Cause I don't want to walk through everything again. However, do Jamie and Anthony, do you have any questions that you had hoped to get answered when you logged on this evening?
So the only thing that I ask a question is that I know that I was reading over some material yesterday, um, and your discussion says it has to be roughly 600 words.
Okay.
I struggle with that. I did the last course I took, well, the professor. Is there, does it have to be right at 600? Do you have a minimum? You have a preference?
Yeah, so for me, again, the university creates all this content, puts it out here for all of us. I you know, I do grade per what's out here. Jamie, if you ended up with like 590, I'm not gonna ding you for it. But if you do 300, 400, 500, then yeah, I have to take that in consideration. Then, it's just not fair for the entire class. So,
Okay.
yeah, you gotta get super close.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because the last class, he didn't really have a preference, but the class before that did. So I just want to make sure that I stay within the ballpark.
Yeah, no, and again,
Shoot for the
that's
stars.
yeah, and I definitely want y'all to, if you got questions about there, let's get it out here. It's always important for me because I know in all my schooling, which was a lot, what frustrated me the most is when like maybe things weren't clear and I thought one way and then the professor thought one way but the school thought another way, then we got all these opinions going on that we're kind of going like this. So it's important for me because I know it's important for you that we're all on the same page. What my how I see things through my lens, what really is the material saying, and then how are you seeing it? Because there are three distinctly different viewpoints of what we just see on the screen. And we're not in class together. So we're remote. So that adds kind of another layer in there. So one of the things I do want to go back to just real quick, and it'll be, of course, in the recording, but if you have any questions, just email me. Questions about like even that, like, hey, how close do we supposed to get the wording or even something more detailed, whatever. Just email me. I get it, pretty much real time, and I'll respond back right away during the week. Um, if it's over the weekend, you got a question, go ahead and text me. Say, hey, this is Jamie from your national class, and then I respond pretty quickly. I do, like I mentioned earlier, I do like to get out, but I do make a point to respond back pretty quickly. So one of the things on the live sessions, like I said, I do upload into the announcement section Thursday by mid-afternoon or something like that. But if nobody shows up for a live session, then I don't do a solo run. I just don't. There's just no live session with no students. So that's just an FYI. But I think that's it. We really did walk through pretty thoroughly as we got started, right at 5, and I'll have this uploaded tomorrow. Any other questions before we look to wrap up for this evening?
No, I have nothing. I appreciate it.
Okay, yeah. Jamie, how about you? David, any other questions?
Nope, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, great.
I think my only question is more of a operational standpoint. Like when you first get to a place, like what is one thing you look at when you first start assessing, besides assessing, right, and seeing what's going on? Like what is one thing you look at, or a few
Yeah,
things?
yeah, it's a good question. So from I understand that question correctly, what in my experience in that I had, would I maybe look at first in assessing an operations? And um, I typically would, have what the company is construing as a problem. And I don't mean like why it's happening, but what the issue is. For example, we're we're making skateboard wheels and we're having a lot of defects, like a lot of wheels, out of 100 wheels, 10 of them are defective, and it's wasting, it's costing, our profits are going down. Okay, there's your problem. Tell me the problem, and then let me go to work to figure out, what that looks like. Um, I can tell you, so that would look different because, like I said, we got a problem. Let's start asking why. That's my favorite question. That the why. I overused it in my 25 years, but it's why. Why are we having defective wheels? Well, the compound, after a while doesn't hold its, strength. Okay, why does that? Why do we do 90, but why do we do 10 defective? What's making that compound go soft? And then you can just work that backwards. But one of the things that is kind of paramount, really cross-sectional, is about culture. you know, Tell me about the culture here. What's your labor distribution? What do you have shifts? Do you have temps? Do you have permanent? Is there a union? Is there not a union? So understanding your workforce, just kind of understanding that, and then go to work on figuring out what the root cause is. And then that usually tees you up pretty good.
My last question is when you talk about culture, changing culture. In my opinion, the department I'm managing right now, the culture wasn't the greatest. There's a lot of process improvements I've done since I've been there for about a year, and a lot of I've been standardizing and like making sure they wear uniforms so they could look more presentable and identified as from the department we're in. But changing the culture has been extremely difficult for me.
Yeah.
Is there any tips or anything? Like what I've done is I've just been fair, like taken away that this is how we always done it. I've taken that away and gone by the book. This is, if you're late, you're gonna be late. We're gonna mark you a wall. After they were just strolling in 30 minutes late. So we've been kind of enforcing the regulations and things like that. So I've been trying to do that, but I feel like I get a lot of pushback, a lot of,
And you will, David. Again, in my experience, culture change has to come from the top down, and it has to be modeled and supported. Um, like for example, when I worked at United Health Group, we went through a big culture change, and that was set forth by the CEO. And at that time, United Health Group, I think, was the fifth biggest company in the world. I think they were bigger than Apple at that time. I haven't kept track of it over the years. And it they the it was an extremely robust program where you know this isn't a project. Changing culture isn't, hey, we're all going to do this for a couple of weeks. So this is a change in how we're all going to operate. So I think the best success is having it from the top down and really permeated throughout the organization. And then you have change agents. Like, I was a change agent. I helped make that happen, but I wasn't the only one. And so, if you're just one person trying to change the whole organizational culture, that's tough. That is tough to do. And it just has to be, changing culture is not easy. And it doesn't happen overnight. I've never been part of a culture change that wasn't a long process, but having clear expectations set for everybody, and um, and over communicating, communicate to everybody, and constant communication. Because what happens is culture is like a rubber, it's like a rubber tree. Culture is like a rubber tree. You start to bend it to change it. Then if you leave it alone for a little bit, it's like, oh, it's back to the same culture. Because culture is us people, and us people like to get in routines and ruts and things and have our own biases and stuff. So there's a good amount of work to it. I and each organization, depending on what the culture is like, would kind of yield a certain maybe approach. However, the things that are consistent that I've experienced is from the top down, and it's got to be in everybody participation, clear communication, over communication, and expectations clearly set out, and people live in it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, there's not like with that, there's not a real hard fast answer to that because culture is so nebulous and moving and different, but communication top down and just it's gonna be a grind.
Yeah, and that's one thing we've been trying to do is, or I've been trying to do is like I said, standardize everything, from the way they answer the phones to the way
Yeah.
the uniforms are,
Yep.
to to um to talking about customer service, like the patients and the providers, and the fellow employees and stuff, and uh just writing SOPs and just kind of tweaking them as we go along and stuff, making it more of a live document
Yeah.
where we adjust things and try to get the, the employees' inputs on making things more efficient. And I think that's how I've been trying to sell that the culture changes, making things more efficient for them.
Great. And two, like when you think about customer service, um, like, ensuring like when you think of customer service on the service side, culture, and you look at culture, there's okay, how efficiently can we do things? Okay, that's like process, right? But then how caring can we be in putting our customers first? So part of the culture is we put our customers first, period. Then by process, how do we put our customers first? So, those things have to be, interwoven in there. Like, what do we stand for? And that's why it really is, it takes a lot of moving pieces really to what do we stand for? What do we put first? And then how do we make it happen? So it's kind of those two things together, working together.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the I think one of the main things we started early was a turnover between like an evening shift and a morning shift,
Yeah.
and just having them all get together was a struggle. I mean, these guys were like,
Oh, yeah.
it was like herding cats, and
Yeah.
and it was a struggle. But now it's more of a routine where we're,
Great.
we're able to pass information up and down and get their I guess their feedback on things.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, open communication, have an environment, psychological safety where your staff and employees feel comfortable to mention if there's something going on. So yeah, a lot of real moving pieces, but it sounds like you're from what you shared, you're definitely heading down the right direction. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Y'all, anything else before we look to wrap up for this evening? Well, I'm excited for the 4 weeks that we're together. This is a really fun class. I enjoy teaching this one. I've taught it a number of times already, and I'm here, like I said, to help steward and everybody through and the class. The goals, we all get A's, right? So let's work towards that. With that said, thank you for being here tonight. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Be safe wherever you're at in the world, and I hope to see you next week.
Good night.
All
Good
right.
night. Thank you.
Thank you.